How to make a kale, white bean, and steak soup. Let's get into it. So first you want to rinse, wash, and strain about a pound of kale, and then put about a teaspoon of oil in a pan or a pot, in this case, because we'll be using this pot for our soup in a little bit. And we'll just have one less thing to wash. Wilt it in your pot. It will shrink down a lot, but not as much as spinach. Just let it get nice hot and let it shrink down a bit. While your kale is wilting in your pot or pan, whichever you decided to use, dice up 1 onion. Add your diced onion to your wilting kale and cook for another 5 minutes, or until the onion and the kale are both soft. Don't forget to stir. You're going to need 2 15-ounce cans of white beans, but we're only going to use 1 for now. You want to strain and rinse them. Now you can either transfer these into a bowl or just do it in your strainer if the holes aren't too big. Lightly mash your beans. Just the first can. Don't do this with both cans. And yes, of course, if you don't want to get your hands dirty, just put it in a bowl and use a fork or a spoon or something. But when all your beans are mashed, put it in your pot with your kale. Add 4 cups or 1 32-ounce container of chicken broth. Give your soup a good stir and bring this mixture to a boil. While you're waiting for your soup to boil, you want to rinse and strain your second can of white beans. This next part is optional. If you want to add meat, you don't have to. Personally, I'm using steak, but feel free to use chicken or pork or ground chicken or ground beef or whatever you would like. Just cut it up into bite-sized pieces. And of course, if you're using something ground, you don't have to cut that up. Just make sure you break it up a little before you put it in the soup, or when you put it into the soup. When the soup comes to a boil, add your diced meat and the rest of your second can of white beans. Stir everything really well. Bring your soup back up to a boil. When your soup comes to a boil, put it down to a simmer on low and let it simmer away, partially covered. Just like this. The cover is kind of on, but it's kind of not on, for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, or until the meat is nice and tender. After simmering for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours and your optional meat is nice and tender, take it off the heat and serve. Don't forget to serve it with my hearty no yeast crunchy bread, and enjoy!